right, welcome back to another episode of Point Blank. I'm your host, Jordan Bankson, and today we have a very special guest joining us, High Point University men's basketball head coach Flynn Clayman. Coach Clayman has been making an impact already with his passion, energy, and commitment to building a winning culture both on and off the court. We're so excited to talk with him, so without further ado, please welcome head coach Flynn Clayman. What's going on, man? Great. Let's do it. Coach Clayman coming off a great win, a spectacular win versus Furman. What went right for you guys besides everything?
Man, making shots, that's a good place to start. I mean, ball's going in. So that's, you work hard on your shot, but I mean, it doesn't mean it's going to go in all the time. So we had a great shooting night. We really played well defensively, which was the key to the game. Points off turnovers, deflections, that sort of thing. So ultimately, the defensive end led to a lot of the good offense that we had, and it was a good night.
So you just became head coach this year. It's your first year, but you've been at this program for just your third year now. Mm-hmm. What has been your welcome to High Point moment so far?
Welcome to High Point moment. I mean, there's been a lot of great moments. I would say the day I set foot on campus and met Coach Huss and was thinking about coming here, I was shocked at everything. I realized that we could do something special here. But the moment that was kind of like an insane moment was when we had Indiana Jones falling from the ceiling in one of our games. We were playing on ESPNU against Longwood, and I thought we couldn't take anything to a new level. And then they got the boulder sound going and the arena shaking, and then Indiana Jones is falling from the ceiling with the game ball, and I'm like, okay, this is just another level of different. So that was pretty cool.
Talk about that environment of High Point men's basketball in that Cubane Center. How has that worked for you and your team so far?
I mean, we've only lost 3 games in there over the last 2 seasons, 2 of those in overtime and one of them by 3 points. So the home court advantage has just been off the charts. I mean, the student section is just unbelievable, and I expect that to continue to grow. I mean, we hope to see that packed out every game this year. You know, we've had it packed out for the big games and pretty full for most of the other, but I'd like it to be like a Duke situation where every game we're just packed out and nobody wants to come in here and play against us, and they fear what they're coming into. But it's felt like that for the last couple of years, and the record has shown that.
Let's talk about your coaching strategy and the way you coach. So you coach overseas and at other mid-majors as well. What is one thing you say you had to unlearn in order for you to become a great head coach?
What do you mean by unlearn?
What is a rule that they said you're supposed to do this in this way, but you had to kind of unlearn that because that's not the way to do it?
I mean, I would say that my coaching style I've been thinking about a long time. So when I was a player, I always had a mindset of I don't just accept what I'm told, I think about it. I think about the whys, I think about what might be better. So, I mean, one thing that I was told when I started playing college basketball was that if you live by the 3, you die by the 3. And up to that point, there were no real teams to point to that won championships playing sort of what we now call modern day basketball. But I was thinking along those lines back then about analytics, about points per possession, about for example, if we have a 3-on-2 fast break, if I'm shooting a wide open corner 3 besides shooting a close-up contested layup, well, I make 75% of those open 3s. What's that compared to shooting a contested 2? In theory, you would think, okay, get to the basket, right? But as you've seen in basketball, I would say by the time I started coaching, this was common philosophy, but taking a high percentage 3-point shot versus a contested close to the basket shot, well, you're going to get more points per possession off the open shot, and then you have more space on the floor. So that was something that I was thinking of coming up as a player, and then before I really got into coaching, that started to become in style, but really it wasn't fully in style when I started coaching. I mean, I started coaching in 17, 18, and that seems like a lifetime ago in basketball, and particular college basketball, with the landscape, the rules, everything, and really the way the game was played has changed a lot into more of the style of play that you would see in the NBA has trickled down, and really before the NBA was in Europe, before it came to the NBA, and then NBA to college, and then now college. I see it a lot in high school, which is spaced out basketball, a high value on 3-point shots and spacing and analytics, and so those were things I was thinking about coming up. So I wouldn't say I had to unlearn them because I was thinking about them before, but we put those into practice here at High Point.
And just focus on improving, right? The past 2 years, we did start off slow with High Point, even though we won those games. Those have been very close games. That game against Furman, I mean, you guys came out and destroyed them. What do you think this new team now has that the last two teams were lacking?
I mean, our last two teams weren't lacking a lot, and this team had a great first game, but they've got a ton to prove to even say that they're on the level of our championship team last year. You know, one game is one game, but we do have more skill at the big position, that's for sure. Like we lack the size of a Bodo, but we have our big guys can dribble, pass, shoot. I think our point guard situation is more multi-dimensional, whereas like Keza was a hard driver, and Bobby was a facilitator, and neither were elite shooters, so to speak. I think we have two guys now at the point guard position who are elite passers, great drivers, and also great shooters. So I think we have a little more versatility, and that says a lot because we did have a lot of versatility with our last two season groups, and the records they put forward showed that also.
Sounds good. All right, well, we have to go to our first commercial break, so don't go anywhere because Point Blank will be right back. See you guys.
Boston, it's 60 degrees with a
Alexa?
Amazon's Alexa lost her voice this morning, causing a
Alexa
wave
lost her voice. How is that even possible?
We have the replacements ready. Just say the word.
And you're sure this is gonna work?
Yeah.
Alexa, show me a recipe for a grilled cheese sandwich.
Pathetic. You're 32 years of age and you don't know how to make a grilled cheese sandwich. Its name is the recipe, you
Alexa, how far is Mars?
Oh, how far is Mars? Well, how am I supposed to know? I've never been there. This guy want to go to Mars. For what? There's not even oxygen there.
Alexa, set the mood.
Now setting the mood. You're in the bush, and you're just so dirty, and you're so sweaty, because it's hot in that bush.
Alexa, reboot.
Alexa, play some country music.
Oh,
I don't dance now, I make money move.
No, Alexa, country music.
I be in and out them bands so much I know they tired of me.
Alexa, call Brandon.
I'm afraid Brandon is a little tied up. But do let me know if there's anything I can help you with. Jessica? Good boy.
Thanks, guys, but I'll take it from here.
All right, welcome back. We are still here with Coach Clayman. Now, Coach, I had an interview with Athletic Director Dan Hauser, and he said that in your interview, you said that your expectation this season was to go back to the dance. If not, the season would be a failure. Why put that high standard on yourself?
You know, I don't know if I said that exact quote. We'd have to go back and look at the footage of the other interview, but I think it's pretty evident that championships and number one are the standard of this university in general. So it's no different with our men's basketball program. It's a very difficult task to reach. Obviously, it took a long time for our school to get there, and we had won in every other sport, and we had gone to the tournament in every other sport, and men's basketball was last. And that shows you how competitive that is. And we've had some tremendous coaches and tremendous players come through here. But I mean, I think that goes without saying, like without me even saying that the expectations put on us by the media, by the experts, everybody is that we should go. But it's going to be very difficult. There are great teams in our league. Unfortunately for us, like we're in a position of 3 games in 3 days determining that. So you can have a fantastic season and almost win every single game and still miss out. We kind of experienced that our first year here when we surprised everybody and we were picked 7th in the preseason, and then we went 13-3 and won the league, and then you lose a game in overtime to a team that was 6-10 on the season, you know, and they get the chance to go. That's where we are. So that's where the question mark comes in, you know, but we are preparing in a way that I'm trying to prepare this group to win 3 games in 3 days, because that's our ultimate battle.
Talk about that first time going to the dance, right? Like you said, the media, the experts, they were all watching High Point University men's basketball. How was that for you?
Oh, it was an unbelievable experience. I mean, I've been in basketball for a long time, and I'd fallen short of that by 1 possession 3 times as the 1 seed. Once as a player, twice as a coach. One time here at High Point, one at my previous university. I'd also been to a title game of a conference tournament when we weren't the 1 seed and lost. Had also been a preseason favorite another year and had our best player, preseason player of the year, injured before the conference tournament and were upset in the first round. So I had multiple times just knocking on the door. The way we pushed through and won that championship game with our bench in those last 15 minutes when we faced adversity was unbelievable experience. And then the whole March Madness experience was great. The game atmosphere was just, people tried to tell me what it was, and I had been in some big games, played at Kansas and had a really close game with them, great environments, but there was nothing like that win or go home environment with our fans over here, and we had a ton, probably more than they did by the time we flew the planes up there and everything. Just a great experience where you're trying to soak it in, but you're also trying to win that game, so you're really focused on that, and we had a chance, we were close, we were right there, a few possessions away. But unbelievable experience, and I hope really for these players that they get to experience it again next year.
The past 2 seasons as associate head coach, you led the offense, right, in top 10 efficiency in the nation, according to the official NCAA website. What goes into your offense? What were the key factors in your offense to lead us to both top 10, to lead us top 10 in both years?
Yeah, I mean, first you got to have great players. There's no magic way to fix that. So we have some really good, talented players, and then from there, we try to teach them about shot selection. What are shots that lead to high points per possessions? And then really the most important thing that people, it's not super exciting to people to hear this, but the amount of skill work we do. We show them the shots we want them to shoot, but they got to make them at a good percentage. And we spend, I would say, an unusual amount of time on that in our practice. I think a lot of colleges focus on the play they're running and who their opponent and what they're doing. I think it's so much more important that guys are making threes, making layups, making free throws, and not turning the basketball over, like have a good handle on the ball, not having silly turnovers. The difference between, I was talking with my staff about it this year, like we jumped from year 1 to year 2 in three-point percentage. Just that factor. We had other factors that made our offense good, but we jumped from about 250th in the country to in top 50 in the country in three-point percentage last year. Well, the difference in 250th and top 50 is 3%. That's 3 out of 100 shots going in. It's that big of a difference.
Yeah.
And if we improve 3% more, we would go from like 45th to 1st. So you can't tell me that guys getting a ton of extra shots isn't the difference. You can get a play to get a guy wide open, but if they can't make the shot, you're not going to have a good offense. So we try to focus on getting good players, teaching them good shot selection, and focus on the skill work to make the shots. And really, it's a simple equation, but the daily grind of doing that is monotonous and boring.
Let's talk about the players, right? Because you and Coach Huss are known as one of the top recruiters in the nation. What goes into your recruiting? What do you look for in a player? It's the one thing.
I mean, the one thing is their love for the game of basketball. That would be the number one. If they don't want to do the work that we just talked about, like how are we going to get to where we need to go? I would say number 2, and it's a very close number 2, is their selflessness. Like, do they care about winning? So they love basketball, and now do they love winning? Because if they don't care about winning, they just care about themselves, then that's not going to be a good fit for us. Right? Those are the 2 most important things. And after that, we start getting into skill sets and what they bring to the table that way. But if they don't have those first two things, then there's no point to go further with recruiting them.
And as a coach, associate and head coach or assistant coach, in today's age with NIL, trying to get guys in and form them and make them bond as a team to make sure we have success not only at home, on the road. How do you do that?
I played pro basketball, so I played international basketball. That was probably a big thing in my interview process too, was just kind of showing them the similarities between what we were doing overseas and building a roster over there, and how that really is very similar to college basketball now. So I had a good feel on what it means to get paid to play the game, and I talk to my guys about it in a way that they listen and understand because I've experienced it. We also have multiple guys on our staff who've played professionally, who've experienced it. So far, so good. I mean, I think guys actually act more professional now than I've ever experienced. And really, that's what I felt when I went overseas. Was the same guy who was acting like a kid in college. Well, as soon as his paycheck was depending on being on time and performing, guys acted different. And I see that. I see a lot more just professionalism out of guys, and that's just a natural human instinct, you know, when your livelihood and your paycheck depends on certain things. So, I mean, but we try to just focus on basic team habits and hard work and focus and being a good teammate, and like it's been good so far. I mean, we haven't had any issues with that. It's been great.
Let's talk about recruiting still, because just as important as it is to recruit good players, it's also important to recruit great coaches as well. What goes into hiring coaches for you?
Yeah, so I had to replace a lot of coaches. And I retained a few great ones too. But the main thing I focused on with my coaching staff was character. Are they a high character person that wants High Point to win, just like I do? Because you can have staff members or coaches who are in this just like players for themselves. So trying to identify that. With this first go-around of hiring, I didn't want to hire anybody I didn't personally know and trust. This is such a great place to be that there can be people trying to infiltrate that are along the lines of what I talked about. And the same thing goes when we're looking at players. So I hired some really high character guys that I trusted, and all of them have great resumes of winning, but that wasn't the separator. You know, it was the character piece and who they are as people and how they can mentor our players.
How would you say basketball builds your character?
Oh man, it's everything. I mean, I learned a lot of life lessons early about performing. I mean, I've been cut from teams left and right for various reasons. I've been cut for teams for attitude. I've been cut for teams for performance, even though I had the best attitude. I've been, you know, hired and fired multiple times. Like that, just learning that, and I'm talking about in college, in high school, hard work, how that pays off. You know, having faith and belief in something when other people don't see it. Like I had an interesting playing career. It wasn't like I was just a star and everything was just perfect. It was a lot of just self-motivation and belief in myself before anyone else did. So all those lessons just come together, and then now that you're an adult and you see how the world really works, you see the perspective of what your coaches were saying, that you're learning about life. You know, when they're telling you that when you're a player, like, yeah, whatever. But you become the coach and you're like, yep, they're spot on. You know, you were learning a ton of lessons that you didn't even realize at the time.
So let's say a freshman walks in your office right now and says, Coach, I'm lost. What's the first thing you're telling him to do in order to bounce back like you did in your career?
Well, especially with a freshman, I would tell him be patient, keep showing up, keep working hard. Rome wasn't built in a day. And I remember what it was to be a freshman also. I'll tell them that, like, you feel like you're just trying to keep your head above water. I mean, this is a lot for these guys. There's a tight schedule. I mean, for most of our guys, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., we've got pretty much every minute of their day planned out. That's not something that most high school kids are used to. And that jump from freshman year to sophomore year, I just keep telling them, like, just trust the process of it, and things are going to become easier. You know, whether you believe it or not, if you just don't quit and keep showing up, things will become easier, and it always does.
You mentioned your faith, too. I mean, the men's basketball team especially are very bold with Trey Benham and Chase Johnson about their faith and belief in God. Does that go for you, too? Does that stand for you as well?
Absolutely. You know, faith is a huge part of our program. I mean, we have players from all religions and all walks of life, and we respect everything. But you know, we bring in guest speakers. I think this has got to be bigger than basketball. So every Tuesday we have a session with Reverend Payne and a guest speaker that will be about something that is not about basketball. But it really is when we talk about what we just talked about how this is life. But like we had a segment just the other day about just trust, trusting your teammates, trusting your coaches, trusting yourself, trusting the process, you know. And we do that through faith and through the Bible, and it's great. I mean, it's great to see guys mature. And what I really find fascinating and what I really love as a coach is that we've had kids that come from different backgrounds that will sit there and listen and be respectful. And that is something that you're really proud of, you know, when you're talking about a kid who it could be easy for them to not want to do that, but to just have that understanding of, okay, I'm respectful of everything and I want to listen and be open to everything. It's a beautiful thing to see.
Let's talk about the maturity that you've seen. In your team leaders and your team captains, what do you want them to show their other teammates?
So when it comes to captains, this was my first time, obviously, as head coach, choosing captains. I wanted the guys to vote on it. You know, coaches can have all the opinions they want, but when you're talking about a captain, you're talking about a player who's leading his teammates. I don't think coaches should choose that. So I left it up to vote. We did a little survey. We had some other questions, things I wanted to know about our guys, and one of them was just who you want to be captain. You can pick one guy, you can pick three guys. So basically gave them up to three. And we looked at we looked at their votes basically and let the guys choose. You know, we gave them the summer together to get to know each other, and then we gave them the preseason, and then about a week before we tipped off, we let them vote on that.
That's pretty unusual that a head coach does that for his team.
Well, I mean, I think it's probably a little more usual than you think
Really?
these days, especially like in this generation. Like I think it's not that different than other generations, but in this generation, I think it's fairly important that you have sort of a player-led culture. The players have so much information now, and they have so much access to other things that I don't think you can just sit up there and be the dictator anymore. That's not. Now you're the leader, and what you say goes for sure, but they've got to have a real involvement in leading the program in today's day and age. So that's how I see it, and I think it's been good so far. Coach Huss was very similar in that way. The players need to lead the program. He called it coach-fed to player-led is how we needed to go, and that's what we did last year.
All right, well, we need to go to another commercial break, so don't go anywhere because Point Blank will be right back. We'll see you. Nice commercial. There we go. Thank you. All right, welcome back. Now, Coach, before we get into the activity I got for you today, we did ask our supporters and our viewers to ask questions that they have for you, right? So one of them says, what do you feel about NIL and how will it start affecting things moving forward?
What do I feel? I feel that there are a lot of positives and a lot of negatives. The players receiving money these days, it varies school to school, but I don't think that's all a negative. I never thought it was right that a coach would be sitting here making all this money. And when I was playing, for example, we would play a game in front of 15,000 people, and then your stipend was barely enough to keep your lights on, or you weren't even sure you had enough money for food. And that changed, and it gradually got to where that wasn't the case. But I like the fact that players are getting paid, but I also think that, you know, when you give a young person money, they can be dumb with it too, and that's where they need to kind of grow up quicker. You know, they need to be treated a little more like adults quicker, and that sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. But overall, at least we're talking about young adults, you know, making their own decisions.
So your opinion on it is pretty good. It's pretty beneficial, but Nick Saban and Coach Deion Sanders, they hate it. I mean, you know, they came out and spoke about it. Why do you think that is?
I can't speak on why they like I said, there are some negatives to it, but I'm big on personal decision making. So if we give kids an opportunity to make money, and some kids do wrong things with it, that doesn't mean everybody shouldn't make money. So I've always been in favor of it. I actually wrote a paper about this when I was in college in 2010. I remember getting a good grade on it, and I kind of actually laid out the exact way this turned out. It's changed now with revenue sharing. There's a difference between NIL and revenue sharing. But I had the idea of NIL when I was just a college kid. Like, how are you telling the musician who's on scholarship at your school can make money doing her performance, but the basketball player can't? That never seemed fair to me. So I like it. I like it, honestly. It's been great. I think our guys have been great with it, and I'm in favor of it.
All right, and this question was from a parent. Do you plan on making any camps or any future plans that you can foreshadow?
Yeah, we have camps every summer. So we had our kids camp this summer. We had 2 team camps. We had 2 elite camps, which is the high school older kids. So we'll do that again this summer for sure. We'll probably add in a middle school camp and maybe a coaching clinic, but we do that every summer.
All right. Now, Coach, we're going to play a game. Like I said before, you led the team last 2 years, hopefully 3 years now, in top 10 at offensive efficiency. So we know that you know about the game of basketball from an offensive perspective. How well do you know defense? So on that monitor right there, as you can see right there, there's some defensive plays. You're going to call it out to me, and if you win all 5, if you call out the right play for all 5, you'll win a point-blank T-shirt. So what is this one?
You're saying what alignment are we in here?
Yes, sir.
That's a 1-2-1-1 press. You could call it a diamond press.
All right.
There's different terms for that.
1 out of 1. This one's hard for you because it's cropped out.
It's cropped out, so I got to use my imagination.
Yes,
but
sir.
I mean, that looks like nothing I've really seen practiced in a game. If someone ran that, we would just shoot a 3 right at the top of the key. But that's got to be like a 3-2 zone.
That is 3-2 zone. Yes, sir. It's maybe a little hard for you. I don't know.
Front line, that's a 2-2. That's a 2-2-1 press.
That's a 2-2-1 press. 3 out of 3.
Yeah, it's a 1-3-1 half court. I like how you got the old European trapezoid key there.
All right, let's see if you get the last one right. This is easy.
Yeah, that's 2-3 zone. I mean, if anyone could just do simple alignment, they would get those right. So glad I didn't mess that up. And I get a nice T-shirt.
Of course, yeah. What play do you use the most?
Us on defense? Well, we haven't shown any zone defenses. We have a
Straight man.
We have a hybrid sort of man, modern day sort of NBA style man, where you can switch off ball, and it would take a long time to go into everything our guys have really learned. It was very confusing for them over the summer. I tried to make a pro style defense. It's similar to what you would see in a lot of NBA games now.
Sounds good. Well, Coach Clayman, we thank you. That is going to do it for our first interview episode. Stay tuned on our social medias and see who will be our next guest. But for now, we'll see you next time.